All right, today I have Brett Milks on. He's an avid OCR racer, and he just did Bonefrog and Spartan, West Virginia trifecta weekend. So I was just gonna get his opinion of like how the races went for him and how the weekends in general went. So Brett, to start off, if you just want to give a brief intro to yourself.
I'm Brett Milks, aka TREX. I've been racing since late 2018, but started OCR more focused in 2019.
So you just did Bonefrog this past weekend, and you've done Bonefrog before, um, in previous years before it actually like changed hands and sort of, I guess, revamped. So how was actually Bonefrog this year compared to like previous versions?
I found it's hard to say because of when I did my first one in 19 in DC, it was hot, but then you ran through the woods. And then in 2021, sorry, in the end of 2019, I finished up the Trident, which was at Barry Farm in Massachusetts. That was also a different experience. But the one we just did was a fast one. I signed up for the 4 hour multi lap and also the elite. The 4 hour multi lap started at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They already had one wave go out already, and then my wave went out. I think there was about 50 or 60 people in our wave, and a lot of them went out. We were all going out hard for the lead pack. It was about like a lot of open running, and then it was hitting obstacles, and not until you hit the big gauntlet of obstacles were grip intense, but there was still a good enough running where you could separate from someone, but it's a lot of zigzag. I found this one more challenging than previous years of Bonefrog, just because the everything was more grip. I made it 4 rounds before giving up my band, which is my first time ever losing my band on any type of obstacles. On second lap, I ripped on chopper, but it got me good, but I had the adrenaline, so I kept on going, made it through. They had the Savage rig there. Nothing really special. It was just rope, ring, ladder, uh, like a fire hose attachment, another ring, and a lachey. And then they had a rope climb, and then they had a low rig. That one was interesting because one of the last attachments was a 8 foot long pipe with the PVC on there where it spins. And then they came out with a wheel where you just keep yanking on it, pulling it down, and it spins into it lifts up a sandbag, and then you drop it. So that was the most intense part of it. I made it through there. I did 2 laps in just about an hour. Third lap, ripped again on chopper. Same hand, just up higher. Made it through there. Fourth lap, ripped the other hand. And barely made it. I couldn't get over the Savage rig. When you're dripping blood, and when I make it to the lachey bar, all I have to do is just kick the belt, but I need to get that momentum. I was trying to get the momentum while also hold it on, and from the blood, I just slipped right off. And then I started to see the lead I had start disappearing. I think I sat there for a little while, seeing first, second, third, fourth place go. I tried it again, and I just couldn't get past the ladder because I had to grab the mop head, which is twirly bird, what they call it. I couldn't get a good firm grip on it because my hand was just split open. And then I made the conscious choice to give up my band there and then continue with the rest of the race and then just finish with that. So then I was going to wait and go do the elite, but my hands were so destroyed that it was just pointless. Even though my times were a lot faster than most of the elite waves.
So it was because I didn't really get to look at the how they set it up this year. You were saying that like the endurance started at like 3 p.m., but then you're saying
Mm-hmm.
like the actual like elite wave was even after that.
Elite started at 7:30. What they had to do before they start, everyone had to do I forget what the name of it. It's where the wall of honor is what they used to call it, where you had to do the
Valhalla or
push-ups.
something.
Yes. So before we all started, we all had to do that. And they had the army there counting out reps and or pushing us further. Get one more, say the names louder. You got this, motivating us all the way there before we even started. So we had to do that 10 minutes and knock out. We had to do pull-ups, and then we instead of doing burpees, we did push-ups and sit-ups instead of the burpees and dips. But we still had to read off all the names out loud so that the army could hear us. And then we wait in line. The announcer gives a speech and does what he does, and then he counts it off, and then we just take off. And it was I think it was about a half mile running on the road before we start hitting grass. And it was already hot to begin with, so all that grass was slippery. So if you had sneakers on, you would have slid between obstacles or just on the grass. And the obstacles were spread apart where you could get that nice little break. And it was exactly 3.1. It was perfect. And you ended in the stadium, which was awesome.
Now you were saying like that wall. I think I don't want to mess the name up if it's the wrong name, but like the wall of Valhalla with the names and stuff. Like that wasn't actually on the course. That was just like a warm up that they made you do.
No, it wasn't on the course. So when we had to do the multi-lap, we only had to do that once. It was our initiation to pay tribute before we went into battle. So it was I like it because you're doing the exercise for all those names, and then you're going into battle.
Yeah, I definitely like it that way better because I remember before, like in DC, it's like it was in the middle of the race and it just took so long to do. You have, it's between a 5 and a 10 minute, depending how fast you are, like in the middle of a race, and then it just like gets bottlenecked, and people were trying to do like whatever station that they had. It just became a mess. So I do like that a heck of a lot better. So that's to me, that's definitely an improvement, even because I still want to honor those fallen soldiers, but like I think that's a better setup than mid race.
It is, especially when in previous years you're limited on space, not for burpees, but for pull-ups and dips because they didn't have any. But for the pull-ups, they had a scaffolding, so you could get 2 or 3 people on per pull-up, and they had 5 sections of that, or 10 sections, so you can get a lot of people through. And plus, it's because it's only 6, you're pushing them quicker. And then all they have to do is do push-ups, and then move from there, go right to sit-ups, and then that's still pushing. So they had all that. They had an open area where you can get it all in. That's why they probably did it 10 minutes before you started so that they got everyone in for that wave.
Yeah, that's nice because then you know how it is with OCR, like people just start skipping stuff or not doing it fully because wasting time. So that's awesome change. Now you were
I would have
saying,
preferred if they did it every lap.
yeah,
To make it more challenging and kind of it would be like a nice rhythm breaker.
That's true. And plus, I mean, it does wear you out. It's not an easy thing to do either.
Absolutely.
So you were saying that they had, you called it Savage Rig. Was it the actual like Savage Race rig and like something like the Twirly Bird and stuff?
So this year they did a collaboration with Savage. So the part of the collaboration was the Savage rig itself. So wherever Lee came up with is what it came. And then you also had another collaboration with Sid and also Race Ready Obstacles. So they helped build the course with a different version of scaffolding than we're used to see. Something that's it's quicker to build and quicker to take down than these big trusses you see at uh, like Spartan and other brands.
I mean, that makes sense. Was there any other new ones that Bonefrog specifically brought in, like that they're going to carry on, or is it just hard to tell yet?
I think it's hard to tell. I mean, they have the iconic ones. They had Chopper. They had uh, Black Ops, which Black Ops was different. We're used to doing it on a ladder going across, which is only 3 lanes. This one was monkey bars set at different heights. And then they had a camera there. Then it was videoed so that the people in the stadium who's spectating and volunteering, they're able to see that on the Jumbotron. So the photographers taking pictures and the photographers also taking pictures of the camera on the rig so that you can get that nice shot like previous years.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. That's definitely
Yeah,
an
so
upgrade.
we had to climb up a flatbed truck and then climb up a wall over the bar, and then we had to do the monkey bars across, go down, it hit like this cushion. So you could just jump and hit cushion, then you little had a hay barrel, then you ran into the stadium to do those obstacles. So it had that stadium feel where there was a carry, but this carry was different. They called it a strongman. So you lift up this maybe 80 plus pound sandbag, and then put it on top of a barrel and then drop it on the other side and then pick it back up and do the same thing like what strongmen do with the concrete ball.
Oh
We did
yeah.
that, and then we ran down into the stadium where we zigzag up and down the bleachers. And then we got on the field to get to our next one, which was you threw a hand grenade at a target. This target was like a lacrosse net that if you hit the centerpiece, you went. If you miss, you just keep throwing this foam thing, which was fun. And then you ran back into the behind the bleachers where they had a couple other obstacles. They had I can't think of the name. It's the ladder that's very small, like the ones they used to
Uh,
toss out for helicopters. It's very small.
that's what I was trying. I was trying to pull up the map. Just says like Stairway to Valhalla. That one might be it. I think it's the Stairway to Valhalla. It's it's
Yeah.
it's it's right before the grenade toss.
Yes. And then after that, then we had to go into we went under the dugout where they practice, and we had to do like a type strap line to go across. But this one's had little grips in there so that you can get your balance, and then grab a rope and run and jump over a log, and then get into the field, and then you run around from third place all the way to home plate. And then for multi lap, you just kept on going right back into the dugout, and then you go right back on course.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up. Like I'm looking at the map itself a little bit here in the screen. and they did pull like a little bit of a Spartan action here where they have a trident shape in the one field that I see you guys ran through. So that's pretty neat.
I didn't notice that until my second lap where I realized I know it's supposed to be a carrot there, but I didn't check my Strava to see what exactly it was because we did so much of zigzagging, especially when it came down to the Savage Rig, the road climb, and um, the low rig. We also did zigzags through there. I'm not sure what if there was a pattern or not for that.
Yeah, I can't pull it up. It just looks like in that, not the actual like baseball field, but early on, it looks like they tried to make you do a trident, whether or not that actually happened day of or not. You'd have to check
Yeah,
your Strava.
we had to do a sandbag carry for that one. So right after Chopper, we went over an invert wall right into the sandbag, and then we did that loop to another carry. We had to carry a anchor, like a 5 foot anchor that has some weight to it. So you bring it to you to the stake, you pick it up, take it to the other side, and then you go for a crawl. Which the crawl was on sand with barbed wire and it had X's, kind of like your, I guess they call that Normandy, where it felt like you're in battle because all the X's were like it felt like you're on the beaches and you're crawling through battle. So I did like that, and they had a photographer there to catch the moments, and the volunteers were also taking pictures.
Yeah, I'm always a fan of like the Normandy because like I'm always when people were talking about like storming the beaches in Normandy, like when there's like that obstacle was that always brought that to my attention, I guess. So how many? So you hurt your hand when you're doing the 4 hours. How many laps did you end up uh completing still?
I did four, and then I tapped out. I finished fifth overall. Uh, if I kept on going, I probably would have got second or third. First place got 5 laps. Everyone else got four.
Did they all keep their bands or not? Or did
Yes.
you know?
So a lot of people who ran, once they ripped, they kind of stopped because a lot of them have Savage this weekend or the 12-hour Tough Mudder in Pittsburgh this weekend.
Well, yeah, well, that definitely makes sense because I mean you hate to see people cut your like you like cut your band because I know that's something that you like you said you never have happen. But if you're going to do 12 hours of Tough Mudder this weekend, unfortunately, it's probably the smarter move if they want to do 12 hours.
Right. I was devastated when that happened. Like I had Lee cut my band. If I was gonna lose my band, I want to do it on something that he puts his heart and soul in the rigs, and he can make those rigs harder than what they are. And my options was to there was no way getting through it with teared hands because it's all a lot of it was all ropes to grab onto, and then I'm slipping off of it. It was either grab the truss and get a DQ or sit in the sun until I think it was like 2 hours left until timeout. So that was a lot. It was hot and the sun was beating. So I made the choice to just have them rip my band off, and then I can continue to keep um, running. I'll just add a contention.
I mean, that's generally what happens to me because I have like I'm not as strong as you and a lot of these other competitors. So like when I get rips and stuff like that, I'm just like, all right, here's my like unfortunately here's my band, but I still want to keep going. It's like you like keep trying and doing what I can because obviously I paid, so I want to still get the experience. But it just it is devastating. I'll tell you that much. So I will
Oh,
agree with that.
it was an experience. It
I'm
it had almost 1,200 people registered. So by the like, 'cause I got there at 10 o'clock, so I was able to see the registration. By the time before I started, it jumped up like 300 people because there was also people signing up at 12 o'clock when they opened. So I was able to see, and I get to see what competitors are what. The most majority of them were open waivers, and there was about 105 elites. But the cool thing about the elite one is it was mandatory headlamp. You had to wear a headlamp, even though the sun didn't like go down at that time. For half the guys, they ran into the stadium in the dark, and the girls ran the whole race in the dark, which is awesome. So to see that, like there was the energy that was there was awesome. The volunteers were great. Even his staff was awesome. And I believe the original owner of Bonefrog, or the creator, he was there. And he handed the checks to the elites.
Yeah, I saw a couple of pictures. My buddy Dustin Livengood, I think he took masters or something in the elite. Yeah, because he said he was like
Yeah,
fourth overall.
I think he came. Yeah, he was fifth overall. Chris Marone came in fourth. He was third, and then somewhere between running on the field and there's 3 obstacles in the dugout, there was I guess he got passed.
So the open waves were in the morning. So do you think, I know
Not all of them. It started at 2 o'clock, but then after the multi-lap went, then the open wave started going through. And then the elites at 7:30, and then there was a volunteer wave after that. And then I think there was one more wave.
do you think, like, I know like in other obstacle course races, obviously this one was a little bit, it was basically dry the whole time, right?
Oh yeah, like the bars weren't as hot, like the touch, but just like anything OCR, a hot bar with your hands, you're going to rip. And I think a lot of people ripped on chopper and on monkey bars.
Well, I mean, yeah, that would make sense. But I guess to the point I was gonna make, is since it was so dry, like the obstacles didn't get beat up as much from like everybody before like the elite wave happened. Usually it's like the reverse. Usually elites like first thing in the morning, so they get like the driest, nicest course. But it seems like it was reversed. But I guess it really wouldn't have mattered per se for this race.
No, I think who would have had the best advantage will probably be the females because they started a little later. And by that time, it was getting dark, so that most of the metal started to cool down. So they weren't, I don't think any of them ripped. I know some of the elites, they ripped.
I mean, that makes sense. But then also like the open waivers, I guess for the females, since they started a little later, were probably more off the course as well then.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you guys started like the elite waves, like was like all the open waves gone like off the course, or was there still some on there? Or
That I'm not 100% sure. I was trying to look for a medical to get bandaged up, and the elites already took off. I'm assuming that there was enough of a gap that when the elites went off, the open wave was going towards the rigs, which was I think obstacle like 18. So there was a good amount of running and doing the other obstacles to catch up to that. And if they were still out there, there were designated lanes just for the elites because they all came in like very close to each other. If you looked at the results, their numbers were like within seconds and like a couple minutes. They were all flying in.
yeah, how like your perception of the competition there for this weekend? Because I know it's, I don't want to say it's a first year race, but because it's been around for a couple years, it just sort of changed hands. But I guess it sort of is still a first year race, and sometimes competition doesn't want to show up. But do you think like the crowd really backed this year, and like the elites backed it this year, like with the new change of hands and Bonefrog in general?
I mean, there was top names there that are usually in Spartan and also at Savage. Most of them who ran that weekend is probably going to be doing Savage this weekend. So there was a lot. There was I mean, if people don't know who they are, then it would just be just normal people. But if you're in the sport long enough, you know who's who, and then you know who the elites are, and you know who the age group athletes are, and where you stand in between both of those waves. But for like they had Amish there running, like Amish people running, which was awesome. I mean, obviously it was Amish country, but I was not expecting them out there running the course and doing it.
I've noticed a lot of like Amish and Mennonites in a lot of like the trail scene now. Like I don't know what the rules are because I don't hang out with like them that much. Like I interact because I like my neighboring town has a bunch, but like it's just awesome to see like their whole family's coming out cheering them on, smiling. Like I talk to them and stuff like that. It's really nice to see them like get the experience as well. And then being in
Yeah,
Lancaster,
it
it's
looked like
cool.
they enjoyed it.
I don't did they now I don't want to offend any of them, like or anybody that might be like, hey, you're whatever talking about them. Did they were they wearing like the normal pants and like work boots? Because I know in trail dress.
They're yes, their normal gear, and same thing with the women with the normal gear with the white.
Bonnets or
Uh,
whatever.
yes.
It's just interesting because I always tell them, I was like, man, I was like, I don't know how you run it. Like sometimes when it's like 80 degrees and they're running in pants, I'm like, man, I don't know how you do it. But hey, some of the best trail runners in PA are actually from the Amish Mennonite community. Um, so it's always cool
Well,
to see that they're in.
look at Courtney DeWalt. She runs in baggy shirt and like basketball shorts, and she just set a record doing 100 miles in the same year.
I always tell people, man, she's so fast now. I was like, if she actually, I mean, that's her style and that's what she's used to. But if she like wore like compression and stuff, because it does make a difference if stuff's baggy and like wind resistance over a
Mm-hmm.
100 miles. Like she's probably losing 5 minutes, but she's just such a beast. It doesn't even matter. So
Absolutely.
you were saying you got to experience like the stadium in general, like and a little bit of night. Like, how does this stadium compare to like some of the other stadiums, and does it give like off a different vibe?
Each I've done Philly, Dallas, uh, Pittsburgh, and Washington. Each of them is a different experience. Dallas is very long, and you're climbing a lot. Last year, Philly, we did more stairs than I have ever done ever. It was just up and down constantly, more than I'd done at Dallas. But what is cool about this one, it's a smaller baseball stadium. So a lot more people were able to see, doesn't matter where you're standing at. I think just finishing at dark time was awesome because everything was lit up. It was so it was so lit up that if you zoom in on like the winners with their checks, it's just so bright that you're not able to see like their name and the payouts for it. They like everyone stopped doing what they're doing and they sat there and watched. Like not like all the big gauntlets of obstacles were in there, but enough of zigzagging through and you see like a good battle trying to make it to one end to the other end. If it was a bigger stadium, you'll probably see more of like a rig in there to kind of break up the running.
No, I
But
do
because
know.
this is at night, it was awesome.
Yeah, I do know Bonefrog. I think they already announced they're going to have two races next year or something, or two venues or something like that. So, did you hear any like a little bit of a buzz yet? Like people like wanting to come back and support them again, like they did before, like in a little bit of excitement.
Uh, I believe so. I guess people didn't expect. I mean, because previous years, Bonefrog had some rigs, and then they had a lot of getting over walls, a lot of walls. This one was a little different. This was more this this one was fast and flat, but also gives you that challenge. So what so previous years, if you failed the obstacle, you had to do some type of penalty, depending on what the obstacle is. It could be 20 of something, jumping jacks, push ups, squats, or whatever. This one was mandatory completion. You just had to keep going. And then for open ways, if they failed, they had to go do the penalty and retry the obstacle. If they failed, they just kept on going. None of the elites or multi laps had to do the penalties. It was just you just had to keep getting through the obstacle as best as you can until you give up.
Yeah, I like that because I felt again, I'm not great at OCR by any means, but I felt like one here or there, and I had to do like the 20 push-ups, and then go retry it, and then I failed again because I just did 20 push-ups, and it just became a cycle after a while, and it sort of sucked. But that's a nice change that because you do slip. It's inevitable that you do slip off an obstacle, even though you're very well capable of doing it on your first try. It just things
Well,
happen, and
especially
then
because of how hot it was too, and you're dripping sweat. If it was like in the beginning of the day, you might not as slipped as much. If it was like in the morning.
yeah, or like some of them that you know what I mean, like a savage race or something where there's stuff over water or like Tough Mudder. Then
Mm-hmm.
people like if you're doing like multi laps or anything like that, or just starting a little bit later, people fall and then the bars start getting all wet and dirty. So like people were slipping more and more as the day progresses just because of that factor. So it sucks to have to do a penalty on top of falling because it might like on a dry course you might not have had to, but I guess that's par for the course for OCR, I guess.
Right.
Now, how do you generally train for OCR?
I get asked this all the time. It I don't really train for it, so I do I just weight lift. I just go to the gym and just pump iron and then that's it. I always had good grip because I do construction, so I always had good grip. What was lacking was my running. I went all 2019 with no running. I just ran on race day and then just waited for the next one. And I did two bone frogs. I did six trifectas worth of Spartans, and then finished the season with an ultra.
Nice.
So it wasn't. And then when COVID hit, I did a few races here and there, and then try to go out for a run on my own. It was rough. By the end of the year, everyone's posting on Strava they hit their 1,000 miles or something like that, or 1,200. I was at, I believe, 700 for the year, and I only had 3 more weeks left to get 1,000. So I made sure, like, I went out and pushed to get those miles. More like if I was on the treadmill, I was doing half marathons on the treadmill, get it off, wait a few hours. If it was cool outside, go run again, and it just kept on adding that. And I think I got 1,002. So when January came, everyone does their New Year's resolution. My girlfriend did a group class at the local gym in New Jersey called Mud, Sweat, and Tears. I took it upon myself to go run outside. During COVID, they did a Tough Mudder virtual race where you could do there's a 5 mile loop that they marked out, but it was virtual. And you had it was live, and then whatever the person tell you to do, you had to do it right then and there on the spot before you were able to go back out for your next lap. So I did 3 laps in the park, and then I did that 5 mile loop without thinking or anything. I just went out and did it. I did it in an hour and did 8 miles. The most I ever done in an hour or in that long of a duration besides racing. And I felt pretty cool. So then the next day I did it again and then again and again and again. I think I did that for like 2 weeks. And then my ankles started to flare up. So then it backed off a little bit. Once that stopped, and then I just kept on pushing in there multiple times. I finished 2021 with like 1,800 miles. And then with all that racing involved, I did, I want to say like 40 something race weekends.
That,
So
that beats you up.
Oh yeah. Especially all the ultras, ultra after ultra after ultra. And then I started finding more, like I podiumed in 2019 at Fenway. It was my first podium. Then I did Bethel the following year, got back-to-back podiums. And then I had a dry spell for 4 months until the end of June and July, where I was hitting podiums every race I'd done. Didn't matter what it was. I started listening to the Run in Public during COVID, and then into 2021, and just try to apply what they were saying. And then it started to pay off. So I was doing what they were saying. And then now it's just me putting more miles in and more work in. I started getting faster and better. Then I moved to South Jersey last year, and I lived next door to a track. I was leaving to go to the store, and I seen there was a group of people there on the track. And it happened to be on Tuesday, and I didn't know what that was. So I went into the local Facebook group and asked a question. I got tagged into another group for South Jersey track. And then I got introduced to all those people. And then I became faster. I got put into you had designated lanes or zones. If you're a sub 25K, this is where you are. If you're 21, 22, these are the zones you're in. So my wave or my zone only had like 4 or 5 people in it. And there are fast people, so I was able to push. And then it started becoming more people coming in. This year we hit 20 people just in that fast group. And then we just did a mile time trial a couple of weeks ago. And I'm doing all this with doing racing on the weekend. And I PR'd my mile 5:28. So I knocked off 15 minutes from it when I did it during COVID. This next week, we're doing a 5K time trial. I've never did a 5K time trial like this. I went out and ran, and then I PR'd just by going out, just getting my miles in. So this one's going to be interesting, especially when I'm going against some fast people.
So what are you
Like
shooting for?
people are a lot faster. Last week I did a 4 mile warm up, before we start doing, I think it was like 1,000 meters. And I did 2 miles at 6:05, 6:07. So I was like, oh, if I had more time, I would have went one more. But by the time I was getting there, I was getting closer to the time where the coach was giving his speech on what everyone was doing. And then we got split up in groups, and then my group goes off first, and then so on and so forth. So our group gets less of a break than normal. Like usually we're supposed to get like a 2 minute break between reps. We get like sometimes 5 or 10, or we just keep running just to get it over with.
Yeah, it is a lot easier to run with like a group. Like if you're doing that kind of work, sometimes it's kind of boring if you're just out on a road, like doing it yourself, or maybe with like a group, you're just like hee hawing around. But when you're actually like doing that speed work, that makes a huge difference. That's like high school kid and college kid training. So it's only going to make you faster.
I believe that. Like most of my 10K PRs were on the canal, and most of them were just by accident because my watch says I was running at a 9 minute pace. But after I finished my hour long run or hour and a half long run, my pace was faster than what my watch was saying. So I occasionally I'll get those type of PRs just because my watch was wrong. This one, I'm starting to learn every rep I do. If it's 400, 200, up to 1,200, I hit my lap button. So now I know what my numbers are. Yesterday we did 800. So I did 5 mile warm up. Went into with everyone. We did a 400 meter jog, Indiana style. So side by side, and we stayed together. Then we went into 800s, and the coach wanted us to be under 3 minutes of everyone. Some people, so my first one was 2:42, but I was also going out of the guy who's a 4:30 mile, and I think a 16-minute 5K. So, and he's like 50 something years old. He has some wheels. So I like to battle with him. I can take him on the 200s, but more than that, he'll smoke me. But that's a good battle because then I'm away from the field, but I'm trying to catch him. So I got to push harder just to get him. So by the fourth round, I started dying down. So I was like, I stayed just at 3 minutes and hit like 3:10 was my highest one for my round. Then I did one more, and then I pushed and I was catching up to him. And then on the last 200, he pulled away. So I tried going quicker to catch up to him. It was like I was within arm length, and then by the last 100, he took away. But damn.
It's
He keeps looking back at me. Look, oh yeah. But none of them, they're all Ironman and triathlons. There's a couple people who do OCR, not as much, but more of them are doing marathon training, Ironmans, and triathlons. So I'm more, and there's ultra marathoners there doing 100-mile races. So I'm more probably the only one that does more trail running and OCR than what they're doing.
Yeah, but I mean, it's going to help you no matter what, because you got to mix it. You got to mix that in a little bit, like the speed work and just having the competition. But what I tell people, like when they're training for like OCR, experience is key, I guess. Like for the different obstacles and stuff, like learning them. Like first time through like a Spartan race, you're not gonna like nobody's gonna like podium. Like you more or less have to like learn technique, learn different skill sets and how to attack. Um, would you agree with that at all?
Yeah. When I did my first Spartan race, it was Sinus' Bank in 2018. They had their rigs were a lot harder than it was now because you had baseball grips and this and that. I I did that race in like 42 minutes. Never done an obstacle before, and I found it wasn't as hard. It was just running, especially up and down the bleachers, up and down the ramps. It took a toll. And then in 2019, I did the Jersey Beast, did that, and then I went to Ohio to go do that beast. Both of them were a different experience. One was faster than the other. And then I did um, Tuxedo, and that was something special. Small mountain, but it was very rugged. I did that open and did I came in fifth overall, and then I qualified for at that time was Noriums. I stopped running open and start doing elite and age group, and then I did Dallas or not Dallas. I did DC, which was the speedway that they're bringing back in 2 weeks. I did that at elite, and I was not expecting those people to go out that fast. And then I was just messing up things left and right. Spear throw. I think I slipped off the ring, almost trying to hit the bell. Then I did Palmerton. So I did all the hard ones out of the way. And then I did anything that I can get my hands on, any type of racing. But I haven't even touched Savage yet because it was always during a Spartan race. And Spartan race, I was volunteering, so I was getting free race codes doing that. So I was able to go from Killington all the way down to Florida and Carolina and do all those races all the way up and down the East Coast.
Nice. So, but the weekend before, which would have been 2 weekends ago now that we're talking about it, you went down to West Virginia and did the trifecta weekend for Spartan. Did you do all four, or did you just do like the trifecta?
I just did the trail. So I did a fun lap on Saturday. So that day they threw a sprint race on top of the beast. It was a special wave to honor a friend that died from cancer. So Joe made an announcement that this was a special race for this individual. And then it got posted to the 4 page and then the rest of all the other Spartan pages. So I did that, and then I ran the trail the following day. The crowd for Saturday and Sunday wasn't as big as usually. Like there was not many people in festival area. It looked like a ghost town. But besides that, the trail was the same thing as last year. So I know that wherever time I get is going to be identical to what I did the following year. I was keeping up with the lead pack, and then we hit a lot of hills. Started to fall back, and then there was flat running, caught up, and then there was this one hill that got me, and then they broke away. So I stayed in fourth place for a little while. Fifth place was behind me, catching me. And then there was another climb, which was even worse. It was steeper. No one was by me at that time. So it took a little while to climb up to the top and then climb up a small little hill just to get water. And then everything was downhill from there. The guy behind me ran up the hill. First, second, and third place all ran up that hill. And I kind of power walk, stopped for 10 seconds, and just picked a certain point where, oh, I'm going to go to this point and just stop and then keep going and keep going. And then I bombed the downhills, and then it was a straightaway, and then I was just losing gas. I was just getting so tired. My time was faster than last year by, I think, 20 minutes. But my position wasn't better. But I finished second in age group, and I finished second in age group last year too, just in the with placing fifth overall instead of seventh overall. Some people had some wheels at the end. Most of these people I haven't seen since the starting line. In the last mile and a half, they just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, the hills are definitely well, that's to me, that's usually my specialty is the hills. Like I was like, you guys can get me on the downhills or whatever. I'll get you on the up. Like that's like my great equalizer. But again, if depending how you attack, if you attack too hard, there's that fine line where you're just it'll take everything out of you. See, like power walking and like I can actually power walk faster than most people run up the hill, and it's that fine line that you have to figure out between saving energy and burning up and racing. It's hard to explain until like, well,
Yeah,
but other people like
I
don't
was
know.
with I was with the leap. I was with the first second for a good 5 miles. Then first place, once he got around a corner where we couldn't see him, he was gone. He took it up and took off. So I was running with second place, and he was surprised at the end. He told my girlfriend that he was surprised that I was able to keep up. And I wasn't trying to search on him. I was just going his pace. I was trying to just cruise because I know he's fast. So if I stay with him, so he's pushing, I'm just cruising. And there was a lot of gradually going up hills. There was a lot of those. So you didn't realize it because it all looked fat, but you start feeling it when things start gradually going up over a good mile and some change. And then there was a big section of climbing, very rocky. And then, have you done West Virginia?
Yeah, 3 times. I think just the trail once. I think it was like the first
So
year
you
for
know
the trail.
that one steep climb at the top of the hills. That's where last year I was in first place up to there. I rolled my ankle 4 feet into the race. By the time I hit that hill, which was mile 9 or maybe 10, the adrenaline kind of left. So I was starting to feel the pain cave, and I got passed by everyone and their mother on that climb and try to catch them on the downhill, but couldn't do that either. I know climbing is my weakness, and give me a downhill, I'll bomb that as fast as than anyone else, or give me a flat way. So now, once I have a good time where I'm not racing as much, like a good solid month off, I'm going to start working on hills. Because that's, especially I love West Virginia, and you're running nothing but hills. So I'm trying to get back into me holding that position for that whole time before I lost it.
Yeah, hill repeats are huge, like in the trail running like community, just getting like whether it's a 50-foot climb going back and forth, or like 500. I like when I do mine, uh generally I try to get 2,000 feet of gain in whatever the distance may be, whatever hill I pick that day, but I try to get 2,000 feet to get gain in descent. And it just seems like that sets me up for 99% of races, just getting in shape, just going up, down, up, down. It's such a huge difference though. And even endurance, it'll make you so much faster on flat too.
Yeah, I heard that. It's just one of those things that I hear it on the Roman public, but it's just something that I haven't applied to because I would have to kind of go out of my way to go find hills or use the treadmill. And I'm limited with my time because between after I'm done work, I try to get my workout in and my run and just kind of push it all together and then go back to work. If it's hot, like it was today, it was 96 degrees, I'm gonna go run on a treadmill. Like none of my races that I have ever done in 5 years where I gotta go run in 92 degrees outside or even that high. Usually we're running like 70s or 80s. Even when I've done tons of multi-laps, I'm not standing out there that long.
Well, hopefully it doesn't happen. I know DC, like what, 4 years ago, I think when I left the parking lot, it was like 101 on my dash, but I was just like, man, I'm glad I'm out here now. That
Oh
was
yeah,
like,
once I did the tier one, and after I finished, I threw up. Like they were giving out what was it, ice pops at like every other obstacle, and like I didn't know what I was getting myself into on that one, and then I think I finished sixth overall for the tier one, and just hurled for like 10 minutes straight, dry heaving this and that. Then I got a beer. Then I got a beer, and then I was fine. I was hydrated and carbed.
see, you were, you
But
were,
that I think that was the worst one ever because there was this. Even though you're running through woods, but there was a section towards the end where it's all open field,
well,
and that sun is beaming.
I think it was because like all the grip stuff and like the heavy, well, the harder stuff was all in the open that year in
Yep.
DC. So like you're running in the like in the woods, but that was the easy stuff. But once because it was all that festival area, and you were just getting beat on trying to do black ops or whatever it is, and you're just like, oh my god, seriously. So
Absolutely.
you were talking about a small crowd in West Virginia. Um, since you like obviously this year I haven't really done too many OCRs. Tough Mudder this weekend is my first one this year because I took a step back this year. Um, do you feel the crowds at OCR have gone down, stayed the same, or it just like the feel in general is just not the same as it was like 3 years ago?
I've done West Virginia. I think this is my fourth time, and this is the first time I ever see it where it's low. Like you didn't have like they had ice baths there, like containers where you can just go and take a sit in ice. There was no wait time. There was like no wait. Um, there was it just it didn't have that feel where the big tent, everyone huddled around, everyone talked. There was tons of vendors and this. And it just didn't seem that impressive from years prior. I think like after COVID, it was good, but then it started. I think not a lot more people are traveling to these venues. The cost of flying is too much, and some people don't want to drive the X amount of hours to go do a race. It took me, I think, 7 hours of driving to go come down there. But if you're gonna go drive to a race, you want your money worth. West Virginia is probably the best one because the like even though around the town there's not much like to go get food and this and that, but the race itself, you like the trail took you to a whole different part of the land that you don't see. And if you do the race, it's you do the same normal terrain. There's a lot more up and downs. You cross the bridge and you come back across the bridge. Um, the layout was similar to last year for the obstacle wise, but for the sprint, we had this steep descent going down and this big ascend going up, very steep. You had to cross over a little stream and then you went up. And then when you got to a flat part, you had to go back up again. But this was all covered in trees. So a lot of people are grabbing roots, grabbing whatever they can grab just to pull themselves up. Like if I show you a picture of it, it doesn't do justice of how tall it really was.
So
Just for a short climb.
I've been arguing a little bit back and forth that OCR, I know some people say, like you said, it was traveling and the expense of traveling. And I think some of it has to do with like the price of a race now. Because it's obviously gone up dramatically since COVID. But I've been arguing that we don't have enough smaller races or variety anymore. That's why another reason why I like Bonefrog coming back, because it gives more of a variety. But I don't think we have that beginner friendly events like we used to, like the Warrior Dashes and the terrain races that sort of like brought people in, and then they came to like the Savages and Spartans. Do you feel the same way that we need some more smaller ones?
Yeah, like even like Fit Challenge was challenging. They some of the obstacles were challenging, but it was the terrain. Like for just to run a 5K, you're getting like 2,000 or 3,000 feet of elevation in that. And they just did their 10-year in the beginning of the year, and now they're done. Now they're strictly just doing trail racing. Like Bonefrog and Savage are beneficial to certain type of racers. So you got your Spartans, then you got your obstacle racers. You got people who just do Spartans only. They're just called Spartans. But if you do all these other type of obstacle racing, then you're an obstacleist. So and then Spartan doesn't get you ready for OCR World. But Hildervat, Overload, any of those smaller companies will get you ready for OCR World, even Tough Mudder will. But Spartan won't, because it's just running, pick up heavy stuff, put it down, go back to running, do like 6 rings to get across, or a ring to a bar to a ring to a bell. They're not changing. But with Savage, ever since Lee took over the build as director, every obstacle for at least the rig, he's the only one who builds it and twerks it to what will get people through, but also challenge them. So, and each rig is different. Like the one we did this weekend was pretty simple, but challenging. He threw in a lachey. Most people don't see that, especially in a Bonefrog. This weekend at Savage, I guarantee it's going to be a lot different than what I just experienced. And I done Savage where I set the course record for the most laps at a single venue.
Nice.
And then my hands weren't ripped up that much. I think I did 30 miles. I was on an ultra kick where I just go run multiple laps of everything just to get 30 miles. I said something to the Facebook group they have and asked. This guy said, "Oh, I did 7 miles, or I did 7 laps. I didn't do all the obstacles and I didn't keep the medals." Like, what? All right, so I was like, I'm gonna go do 8 and get it done in the time frame was given. I had to be done by 2:00 to do all those. So the only one I did skip was Colossus because I'm working against the clock. Climbing up that and sliding down is not very obstacle-less. Like I can do that at the end. I did it for the Pro Wave. I'll do it at the end as a finisher. I just needed to get through because there was a pile up. You only have 2 sets of ladders to go up, and then you have to wait for people, and then so on and so forth. Where I can just go from one rig to the next rig, and just keep going. get back in the line and just keep working until I was done my 8 laps.
Yeah, because sometimes like Colossus and stuff, like you can be like 200-300 people deep, and it takes you 15-20 minutes just to get to the front of the line after everybody starts during the day, because it's just one of those things that happens, I guess.
Yeah, I started to see the pile up on my 3rd lap. So I did the pro wave, we did the race, and then I did blitzes of everything just to make sure that I was able to get the laps I wanted to get, the miles I wanted to get in the time frame. I could have done the race, but then I wouldn't get that many. Oh, I get the miles, but I wouldn't get the laps. And it was interesting. There's like on the fun laps, Robert Killen's doing the fun laps, and then I think he did a couple of them. I beat him on one of them without even realizing, just because of our times. And then I think he went out again, and then he got me by a good chunk. I mean, doing that many laps on that type of terrain and starts tearing down on you, and then you start slowing down.
And OCR is not hard. Like, I'll be honest, my favorite, well, I do like Bonefrog and Savage for obstacle completion, but for the OCR experience, like I'm always a Rugged Maniac fan because it's easy. I can go bang out the elite lap, and then the whole day I could just, bang out 5K, 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 having fun. And what I like about Rugged is helping other people, like, because Rugged's more of like a beginner friendly, fun atmosphere. So I like going out, helping people during the day, seeing them have fun. I enjoy that aspect of OCR just as much as, I'm not a Spartan Elite, but let's just say I was like going head to head with like Spartan Elites or even age group people. Like, it's two different things for me, but like when I do Rugged, the way I like it is just because the fun atmosphere and getting to experience the people in general. Like, I want to say the masses, and I don't get that much say it like some of the other races because it gets so spread out. You can't do like the multi laps like you can like in the Savage race.
Yeah, someone asked me about a month ago, why don't you do more elite? And I said that elite is fun and all, but you don't have that same battle like you do in age group, because you're going off with like 200 people in your age group. You don't know who's in your age group and who's not. And so you're always pushing. So if you run elite and they take off and 6 of them are in front of you and they're gone, you know where you stand. You either stay in that position or you fall off. For age group, you're always pushing. You always want to get ahead of your competition, or if you have a rival against someone who's always there, it's a great battle. It's a great pushing back and forth and whatnot. The elite, you don't. If you're that high of a collaborator, that level, it works out for you, especially for second, third, and fourth. There's a great battle there. They're always close. Same thing like Savage or Bonefrog. They were all close. But I feel like age group is the new elite. There's more people in age group than there's elite. And the battles there are just unbelievable.
Yeah, that's why I always enjoy like I when I do elite, it was usually like the smaller races, like the Warrior Dashes, terrain races, but it was just like that battle because I'm not a Spartan Elite by any means, or even like a Savage Elite, but like those little battles that I have at the terrain race, Rugged Maniac, like that is more fun than just getting smoked by some world renowned athlete. But at the same time, you got to have those, and you got to have the age group, and you got to have the open just to grow the sport, I guess. But it all comes down to your experience, what you're setting out to do, and whether or not you're actually having fun at the end of the day.
Like I'll go back and forth. I'll go run elite for ultras. Uh it's it's not like I like for the ultras, I knew who's going to be there. And usually they're age groupers that moved up to elite for the ultras. So there is a good battle. I have enough age group medals and elite plaques, but that doesn't fill my cup. It's the battle or coming up to an obstacle race where like you give it all your all and it's not good enough and you had to give up your band. That's what I strive for. I always like I love bands because it shows completion and like everyone gets a medal, but not everyone gets a band. So I'll do more races that have band or mandatory completions than anything else if it was an option or it was close by. Spartan's is convenient because there's so many going on at any given weekend. I can just use that as training. But for like this time, it wasn't as hard. But when you're trying to do that so many times very fast and on a 4 hour window, and you also have some fast people that you battle with in age group, you know you're gonna have a good battle. It's just once in a blue moon, you're gonna find a race that is gonna get you. And this was my first race that got me. And like I was so bummed about it. I was like, got my first DNF, but technically it wasn't a DNF because you could still finish. So it was my first race that I ever lost a band. And there's a lot of close calls on Savage when they used to have harder rigs before they started doing elite. And that's when they first brought out the cheese board and this and that. There was a lot of close calls for that one. It was one, you know what, let me do one more time. And then I get it through. And then I get my first podium in it and then stayed in the top 10 for it. This one hit different. It was something that because it was a multi-lap, I knew who my competition was. I know that I have more endurance than most of them and I could push more and I'm better through obstacles than they are. But then I just found one that got me. So then they were able to pass by with no problems. When I sat there and watched every one of them pass me and they made it through the rig with no problems. Like, so that told me their hands weren't destroyed. But then after the race, when I was talking to them, their hands were ripped up. And I think it was the monkey bar black ops. Because you had to go through more, you had to go through a lot of monkey bars and it was up higher and that was in the sun.
Well, I mean, it's only going to make you stronger, give you that drive to like be better and do better next time. So, I mean, as much as you might hate to have failed, it might be one of those things that catapults you down the road to reach that next level.
Well, that and like I went in it, I did my pace. I wasn't trying to surge or anything like that. Three of us were neck and neck at the first obstacle, which was the big ass cargo. But once I guess one guy got caught on one of the nets because he was about to pass me. But then I was able to get down the cargo net faster. So a lot of people will roll. I'll just slide down. I'll go on that middle strap and just slide. And then I took off from there. So then I had a big gap on him. So I didn't see no one until the third or fourth lap. And, you know, I always say like, oh, I should have trained better, worked on my grip better. It has nothing to do with the grip. It's just once you rip, you rip. There's not much you can do about it. Especially when you're grabbing on rope it's not smooth.
Yeah, that or even Twirly Bird with that Twirly Bird kind of Well, it's kind of slick. At least it used to be.
Well, also, yeah, and also because of the knots on there, it's pushing onto that spot that you just split open. So it's almost like,
Touching a hot pan on the stove without a
yeah,
mitt.
there's just some things you just can't train for. But there's ways of, oh, I have a race this coming weekend. I need my hands to heal. What can I do? But because I work with my hands all the time, my hands are always getting split open. And then I was just trying to stick it in warm water, trying to loosen it up, put tons of lotion on it, type of cream, whatever, just to not give it calluses, just to get to the point where I can open my hands and close it and grab something without it having to split open. So I'm working with that. It's getting to that point. Little splits here and there today. So I think I should be ready by Saturday for the race.
Okay.
Hopefully. If not, then I'll give my best.
All right, I'll get you out of here in a couple minutes. Because we've been going for like an hour and 15 now. Now, if people don't know, because your name shows up as T-Rex, so if you want to go into that a little bit, because I know about it, but I didn't know if you wanted to share like what you do sometimes at races and why you say T-Rex.
So in 2019, I seen this video of a bunch of T-Rexes running on a track, like they're like a horse track, and they all got out of the horse gate and they all sprinted to a certain distance. I thought that was hilarious. I seen that I think in April or May, and I thought that was just hilarious. And I watched it probably numerous times. Then I decided to go buy one. And I think I got it in June or August. And I was trying to think, because by that time I did different versions of races, stadiums, and all the other stuff. And I found it was easier to run through a stadium race than anything else because they want to pop. So I tried it out on my local 5K in Philly. Ran that. It was it was the flyer, or it was the gritty 5K. So if you're familiar with gritty, he's out there running with it too to certain spots. This is before I put the Mohawk on it. So I did that race and did it in 33 minutes in my T-Rex. I was like dying, but it was fun. And there was a video or a picture of me running past and looked like a bunch of kids just trying to chase me down. So by the time I found that photo, COVID happened. So I used that as COVID was trying to extinct me. And then during COVID, I put the T-Rex, or before COVID, I ran Fenway with 4 other friends that were inflatables. One friend was in a T-Rex, one was in a unicorn, and one was dressed up as a person getting carried off by an alien. So we did that, and it kind of sparked everyone's curiosity on what. Then I started doing more racing in the T-Rex during COVID, just to be there, put the Mohawk on it, because at that time I cut my hair, turned it into a Mohawk, and was dyeing it all the time until this day. I brought it to Bonefrog. I did black ops on it, done it at numerous Spartan races, and then I did it at Savage, Florida. I did on whatever obstacles I could get on without ripping it. I went down Colossus in it. That was an experience. Once I hit that water, because they wanted to see my face, so I did the thing where I zipped it down, see my face, zipped it back up as fast as I came. I was going down, but because there was a little gap, by the time I hit that water, and when I came out of it, the whole thing just flew right off of me. So I had to go in there, dig for it, drag it out, empty out the water, The motor was still going on. It's like, oh, this is fun. So I try to do different races or even do stupid things. Go on the side of the road and go do burpees in the T-Rex, or just do something for stupid attention because I'm running a T-Rex. So now it's to the point where the the sponsors know me as a T-Rex, and like they'll like, where's the T-Rex at? Like everyone asks that. I always bring that to my race. I'll forget my trail shoes, but I won't forget the T-Rex. It will show up at every race. It's always with me. It depends on it's going to be out or not, depending on the heat. So I'm trying to find a local race around here where it's a Halloween one. I'll go wear that and run in it.
Nice.
I'm going to do it in. I'm going to do it in Disney. I'm doing the marathon weekend. It will be my first marathon ever. I never, even though I've done numerous of ultras, but everything was on the trail, so I never did a marathon. So I'm kind of prepping for that, just not putting in those miles to do that. Like I'll stick between like 25 to 30 miles a week, and I won't go wherever I do in my hour is what I stop at. So if it's like 9 or 8 or 7 or 6, that's what I stop at. I won't go more than that. Like I'm low mileages, but I can push beyond that. So for the 5K, it's a fun lap at Disney, and so is the 10K. I have two T-Rexes. One is the iconic one I always wear, but they won't let me use it because they need to see my face. I have one where if you watch videos of other countries wearing T-Rexes, they have one where it's just, they look like they're riding it. So they look like a small little body on top of a dinosaur. I had that as my backup. So now I'm starting to see a lot of people in other countries wearing T-Rexes doing these races. During COVID, everyone thought that I escaped the United States to go to another country. I was breaking curfew and protocol. So they keep seeing me in other countries in the T-Rex. Like, why are you in Italy? Why are you in Rome? And this and that. So now I get tagged in everything, and some people assume that it's me. It really is me. There's a race in Virginia, or Richmond, Virginia, which is a quarter mile. They're trying to set the world record for the most T-Rexes running together, probably to a certain distance. But every time that happens, there's always another race. This year, there's no race, and it's only 5 hours for me. So I'm going to try to go down there, and hopefully Guinness is there so that we can break the world record.
Nice. I thought you might wanted to share that story a little bit, since, I mean, without bringing it up, people might not realize that's you. That's why I wanted to touch on that a little bit.
So actually, a lot of people, when they see me, they don't think that's who I am until they read my jersey and it says T-Rex on it. Then, like, if they're running behind me, they'll start figuring it out. Like I'll go do I done a 5,000-meter row in my T-Rex. I want to do DECA. Probably all 3 DECAs in it. That'll be my next thing. I just got to make sure it's not on top of another race, because I know it's going to take some time to do that. So
It's just hard in general.
I've done everything in it. Oh yeah. Well, trying to, like, I wanted to do the ruck in it, but it'd be hard because can't put a ruck on it. I mean, I could barely put a T-shirt on it, but if somehow I found if I get a 10X, I can put a T-shirt on them. The row one was easy. It was probably like I would have to, for the lunges, I would have to hold the thing in front of me instead of on my shoulder. The sit-ups will be hard. The step overs won't. And then the burpees would be a little trickier. It's just to be a lot of flipping back and forth. And then certain obstacles I can't do because I got to jump. I altered the arms on there so that I can have longer reach, but sometimes it needs to be more flexible because before I couldn't get across my forearm, so I was real limited on where I can grab, what I couldn't grab. Now I can get over walls, no problem. I can do monkey bars to a certain point. I made it through. I did it for remember in 2021 they did the Spartan Cross. It was the first time, like it was a different version of the 3K format. So in Florida they introduced it, and you had to do 10 obstacles, but they gave you wristbands. They give you 5 wristbands. If you fail 5 obstacles, you give it up. I did that in my T-Rex. It was one of the things that, because I was a pass holder, they gave it to me for free. I was down there anyways. Why not do it all? I did that. That was interesting because I had to go under barbed wire for one section. So I had to deflate my costume to the point where I was able to get to the barbed wire, inflate it, pick back up, and start running. Monkey bars got me towards the end because there was one section where you had to reach longer, and I couldn't see it. And then I felt a rip in my arm. So I was like, damn it. So then I did everything else. Did rope climb, did the rings, and then I finished. Then I seen the rip. After the race was over, that Monday or Tuesday, wherever I did the photos, said I have to go in the surgery. T-Rex has to go in the surgery. I got so many messages saying, oh, how'd the surgery go? And this and that. Are you okay? How long are you out for? They actually thought it was actually me getting surgery. It was hysterical. And it was like, oh, he's back. He'll be out there next week. And it was just, oh, it's just like, it was more just for shits and giggles. But the more I do it, the more I realize that I hear a lot of people, oh, I can't do this and that. It's too hard. This and that. Well, try doing it in a T-Rex costume where you can't see. It's 90 degrees outside and it's even hotter inside, but yet you're out here doing it. I think it was COVID or 2021. I get invited to. You ever heard of Hillavat? It was a
Yes.
local race down in. So I got invited. I got asked to come down there and race. Not me personally, just the T-Rex to go race. And then asked if I can find anyone. It's like, so there's this guy who runs in a gator at Overload, but it's a half. So he's riding the gator. So we each made memes against each other, who's the better and who's this and that. And we had our own wave and went out and battled. He did better because he was able to see, and he wasn't limited to certain things. I was limited to a lot of things with short arms, especially with any rigs, but I was able to do the ropes and throw the axe at the target. And he got me on that one. But it was a big experience. They had drones, so I made it on the coverage for that. They were throwing out big money for top elite, so a lot of top elites showed up there. A photobombed Atkins during his interview. And then on the highlight deal that they did, I guess for next year, but it didn't. Next year didn't happen because I think they spent too much money to give out to these pros, and then they didn't make it back. So I made it on their video, and then I got with Riverbend, which is a CBD company. They wanted T-Rex. The race team I'm part of is Iron Edge. They wanted the T-Rex on their team, so I just followed. I got sponsors for other things because of the T-Rex, but also because of my ability too. But the T-Rex stands out. So now I'm starting to add stickers like tattoos on it when I go do these runs, so that because if I can't wear the shirt, I can't wear the hat, but I can wear the shoes and the socks and the wristband. I need something that it shows off the label and their stuff like that. So I'm starting to do. I had t-shirts on, but taking a t-shirt off was a problem because I had to put the zip it up. They put the t-shirt on at the same exact time as inflated at the same time. But if I wanted to get out of it, it was a problem.
But it's just a nice story. I think people will enjoy
It,
that as well.
it gives people like when people see this, they're like oh my god, like you can do this and that. Like it's more to show people that you're not limited to your ability. You can conquer any obstacle. I'm doing this in an inflatable where I can't see, and my arms like I'm using T-Rex arms where I don't move as much. So I'm showing like the struggle, but I'm still trying to get through it. So then I also did it at OCR Worlds this year on the 100-meter one, and my obstacles were tested because everything was up. Well, there's no step stool. I can't just go up and go across Skull Valley. I had to kind of jump up there. Halfway through, I ripped even more, and I was like, you know what? I finished it when the time I hit the finish line, that thing just completely died. It's not meant for OCR or running like that. So the fans kicking in this and that, but it gives everyone a show. It brings joy, especially if someone's having a bad day. Uh, like I got asked, well, what's the craziest things they've done? I snowboard down Palmerton in my T-Rex. I have videos of that, and I'm going down a double diamond. That was scary as hell because it was at night, and I by the time my face thing fogged up, I couldn't see. And you have all these kids just whipping down. It's like, oh shit, I'm gonna hit a tree. I'm gonna hit someone. I'm gonna hit anything. I'm gonna fly off the mountain. Somehow, somehow, like I had to pull one arm in, wipe my face, and be able to try to because I had to do it from inside. And then I was able to do that for a little bit, and I keep doing it, and then I made it down the mountain. It's like, holy shit, this was scary because you don't know who's flying behind you, or if someone runs over my tail, it pulls me down, and I'm going into the bushes, or I'm flying off of something that I shouldn't be flying off of because I can't see. But
Nice.
it's a fun experience. It gives people joy, and it encourages them to go out there and give them their best.
Yeah, I
If anyone
agree.
can do it in a T-Rex costume, they can do it, and they can do it without it.
I agree. It lightens the mood up, and sometimes somebody might be like unsure of an obstacle or like having a bad day. It just lightens the mood up a little bit and uh, makes things a little bit easier when they see something like that going on.
Even if they don't see me in the obstacle and they see me running, it's funny because it wobbles, and it's hilarious watching it run. It doesn't matter what angle, you'll just see it wobbling back and forth like it's trying to run straight, but it's not.
All right. Well, I think that's a good stopping point. Unless you have something else to add real quick.
Um, I'm definitely gonna get redemption at Bonefrog next time they have another one. I'm hoping that they do the stadium one more time. I don't think they are, but I hope they do it again. I think that was just awesome. I think they should just give it one more round. I know I think they're trying to do the Cascades is one of them, which is elevation, and I think they might have Virginia Beach. I think that's the one that we ran in where it rained all the time. We're going through like very cold water and this and that.
Yeah, I know they said they had two venues next year. I can't remember offhand because it's just so far out on my calendar right now that I know they said they had two venues planned. So
Yeah, I think this was for their first venue. They were thinking that they were going to get between 500 or 700 people, not close to 1,200.
yeah, that's
So
definitely a huge jump.
and I think it was like and like their rewards is a baseball bat, and a baseball bat is game used. So once the baseball bat is like cracked or not used anymore, it gets cut in half, it gets painted, and it has the Bonefrog logo on it, and it says first, second, and third place, or masters, and so on, which is awesome. And then for the endurance wave, you don't like you'll get the endurance medal, but this time you get remember how they used to do team? If you had the biggest team, whoever was the captain of it got the trident paddle with the green rope around it. Now that was the award they gave out for the endurance wave, which is awesome. That's a cool trophy. I would like to get my hands on one of those. I had the golden trident. I have the elite one for that one. I had the multi-lap. I have that elite one. But that paddle, oh, like I always wanted to make a team name, but Foro always had the biggest team, and whoever was the captain of it got the paddle. But getting the paddle is awesome. So I'm glad they're bringing that back. I think that happened. I think 2016 or 17. That was the overall finisher. So it's cool how if you do the elite, this is your award. If you do multi-lap, this is your award, and they keep it separate.
Yeah, it's
and the
always nice
paddle's
'cause you know
engraved
the
with.
distinction then.
Oh yeah, and the paddle is just cool. I mean, it's engraved. It has the logo on it. If it didn't have the logo, that would have been fine because I would have just carved it all myself. I made my own plaque for Bonefrog for both my tridents. I had it on a piece of tinder, and then carve out the frog, and then I'm going to put the trident on there, and then I have all my lap pins tapped to it, and I have both my first trident and then my golden trident attached to it. So anything that's unique, any type of races that has a unique medal for it, I'm going for it. Same thing with Viking race. When I did their one race, it was a 6-hour race. They had one where you could have got overall, and then you could have got the mountain. I got first place overall for most elevation. They gave me a ram horn. I drank the beer out of it and took a shot out of it. I got a 12 inch by 12 inch, and then I carved a mountain on there. And then I put the elevation, put the name of the race, and the place I got. And then I mounted the horn right on there. I etched it in with wood and everything. Like I took some time to build that.
I do like unique things myself, so when I get them, I cherish them more than your standard medal, I guess.
Yeah, I stopped collecting Savages and Spartans because I got so many of them, I don't even deal with them. Like, if I make the podium, I'm forced to have it with me, but I don't need them. I have enough of those. If they're unique, I'll take them. Or if it's if it's a new version, I might like a new version of a Syndicate or Bonefrog. I'll do that. But if it's the same thing over and over, I don't need any more of those. I'll take the trifecta ones because each one is different every year, and they just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where I'm gonna be eating dinner off of those.
All right. Well, hopefully your hands heal up for this weekend, and hopefully you make it on the podium at Savage Race.
Savage is one of those. It's hard because a lot of the elites, if they're not first, second, and third place, they're usually in my age group. There's one I podiumed at Maryland this past year on one of the most stacked fields, and it was part of the Savage series, and somehow I snagged the podium there. So I got real lucky. Yes. And then other races, they're like PA, they were just a lot faster. But because most of the people in my age group, they took this spot. So I won teams. So if I don't get on a podium, most likely I'll get on a team podium. which is cool because they acknowledge teams.
Yeah, a lot don't do that anymore, but it should go back because it would help bring more people back into the sport.
Absolutely, because then like, oh well, if I'm not that good, but I can go for team, and if there's 20 people on your team, they take the top three spots. But you can also give that medal to whoever you want on your team. If you give it to someone who tried their best, it's still a team podium. You just didn't get that time that was required to get that top three spot. But they can just give it to whoever they want. And usually that's what um, um, a lot of teams will do, just give it to people who just give their all, at least. Instead of people who are on the podium for overall and then podium again for teams. Why need two sets of medals?
All right. Well, I guess that's about it all I had. Thank you for coming on. Hopefully well, you know me, I follow you all the time, so I'll see your pictures from this weekend and I hope you do real well.
That's what I'm hoping. Once the hands heal up more, a lot of lotion and whatever I can do. If I got to super glue them and whatever just to keep them closed and just for me to get through probably the rig, I'll be happy with it. I mean, I'm not going to wear gloves because sometimes you just don't get that same feeling. But I mean, I'll do what I got to do to make sure they stay closed.
All right. Uh, Talk to you here soon then.
Thanks for having me on.